Hi everyone. Very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. We'll be starting the session in a few minutes. Meanwhile, just doing a quick round of introductions on the chat here. So I'm Rasha Khan. I'm your host for today's webinar, and I'm joining all the way from Bangalore, India. Would love to know where are you joining from. You can let us know by sharing your name and where are you tuning in from on the chat here. We also are streaming live on our YouTube channel as well. So folks who have joined us live on our YouTube channel, you can introduce yourselves on the YouTube live chat box. Once again, welcome everyone. We'll be taking you through the free Learn It Live webinar today for how to successfully ace the PMP exam on your first attempt in 2024. And I already see a lot of introductions coming in the chat here today. Once again, welcome everyone. It's fantastic to have you all on board. Please keep the introductions coming in. As this is a global webinar, you'll be seeing a lot of people joining from different countries in the world. So it's always good to network, right, these events before we start. So please keep the introductions coming in. Meanwhile, while you're giving your amazing introductions, let me just quickly take you through the few quick ground rules we have here for the session. So you can put on your questions in the Q&A box in case you have any questions for our speaker, Bryan. And it will be very helpful for us. As you can see, the chat box is completely blowing up and we might miss your questions here during the session. So please do that. Chat box, Q&A box is just beside the chat box. You can easily find it on Zoom, where your amazing introductions are coming in. That is the webinar chat box, and Q&A box is just beside it if you joined from your mobile, laptop, or desktop. So please do that. Please keep your questions there. That's all we need help from you. And the session is being recorded in case you want to go through the recording of the session. Once again, in case you miss anything, please don't worry. You can expect a follow-up email from us with the recording link to view. And also talking about the webinar certificate for attending this webinar. So for that, you will have to request a proof of attendance for this webinar. You will have to enter your full name in the post-webinar survey. That will be by Zoom. So basically, once this webinar ends, you will be getting a pop-up by Zoom which says post-webinar survey, where it will ask you what name would you like to see on the webinar certificate, and that is the data we will require to basically give you that personalized certificate there. So please make sure to do that. In case you have missed anything about the ground rules, please don't worry. I'll remind you, throughout the session on the chat as well. I'll send few nudges about the ground rules and also towards the end as well. So please don't worry about that. Keep the amazing introductions coming in. Thank you so much, folks. We are just starting the session. And this program is powered by Simplilearn, world's #1 online bootcamp. We are very proud that we have been in the digital skill training space for almost a decade now. And we have transformed lives by empowering people via these digital skills. We have advanced over 5 lakh plus careers, over 150 plus countries. We have 800 plus qualified trainers. We have categories of courses ranging from AI, machine learning, data science, business analytics, cloud computing, project management, the PMP courses we're talking about today. So once again, welcome everyone. So let's start with a quick poll. I see a lot of amazing introductions coming on the chat here. So let's do a quick poll to getting to know a little bit about you and what kind of audience has joined us. What kind of experience do you have? So I'm just launching a quick poll here, which will basically ask you how many years experience do you currently have? So when I talk about experience, I'm talking about work experience here. So you can see 4 quick options here. The first one here is currently studying. Second one, 0 to 3 years. And the third one, 3 to 5 years. And the fourth one, more than 5 years. So you can easily go and vote on the poll, which is just launched right now. And we'll just give 10 seconds for the poll because I see hundreds of you have already voted. So that's interesting. We have a very active audience today. Thank you so much for the activeness. Let's give it like 5 seconds more for the poll. How many years of experience do you currently have? I see folks on the YouTube live chat box as well. Welcome everyone. You can also let us know how many years of experience do you currently have by choosing the option 1, 2, 3, 4 on the YouTube live chat box. For folks of Zoom, you can just let us know by voting on the Zoom poll which is launched. Awesome. I think last 5 seconds, folks, because most of you have already responded. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let me end the poll and also share the results with you folks. Let's see. what have you voted for? So I see 89% of you have more than 5 years of experience. Interesting. I see 6% of you have 3 to 5 years, and 2% 0 to 3 years, and 3% again are currently studying. So that is a very interesting number to see. 89% are having more than 5 years experience. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. That definitely gives a speaker understanding, how to tailor his responses as well, during the session. So thank you so much for responding to this poll. Moving on to the agenda of today's session. The first agenda of today's session, which I've already mentioned, that we'll be getting to know a little bit about you, how we can help you out in your project management PMP career better. And we'll be talking about the Learn It Live topic here, acing the PMP exam on your first attempt in 2024. We'll be going through in detail about this topic today, and we'll be talking about the PMP certification training course shortly, and also taking you through the enrollment steps based on the interest you share for the course enrollment. And there'll be a quick Q&A round towards the end of the session. So the Q&A round is towards the end of the session, but this is Learn It Live session, so we will obviously be expecting questions from you during the Learn It Live. So if you have any questions, please do put it in the Q&A box, and a speaker will, whenever the speaker gets time, they will go and basically look at the Q&A box and answer questions if there is enough time. If not, please don't worry, just have a little patience, we'll answer it towards the end. So please don't worry. Make sure to keep the questions related to PMP, project management, so because the webinar is about that. So thank you so much, folks. Moving on to our speaker introduction here. Would like to welcome our speaker, Bryan Campbell. Bryan, a very good morning to you, and it's always a pleasure hosting you. We have an interesting topic lined up today. We'll be talking more about that, but before that, would love to know your introduction here.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much, Rasha, and great to be part of this. Love seeing how many people from around the world attend these sessions. They're always so much fun. So yeah, a little bit about myself. So I am I guess a dyed-in-the-wool project program manager. This is something I have been working in this space for over 25 years or so. Maybe even getting close to 30. I guess I'm having to grapple with how old I'm getting. And a lot of that experience has been directly hands-on working in typically larger organizations. These are typically companies that have a lot of big complex projects and programs that they are responsible for. So I've worked a lot with projects and building project plans and schedules and answering those questions about how much does it cost and how long will it take and what the scope of the project is. And I also do a lot of work with the Project Management Institute. So this includes not just delivering training and helping people who want to get their PMP, Project Management Professional Certification, but also I work a lot with, creating content for the Project Management Body of Knowledge, the PMBOK, and helping with crafting exam questions for people taking these certifications. So you can see I've got a lot of these certifications myself. The PMP, the PGMP, that's the Program Management Professional Certification. Sort of think of it as the granddaddy of the project management certifications. And the Agile Certified Professional, the ACP. And actually, I do a lot of work in the Agile domain. So a lot of my time is actually helping organizations that want to introduce more Agile practices and behaviors and thinking about how do they blend together with more conventional project program management. Happy to say I've been working with Simplilearn for, gosh, I think, Rasha, you said they've been around for 10 years. I think I might have been a pretty early entrant working with Simplilearn, fantastic organization. And I'm always so excited to see how every time we engage, how things continually improve and progress. So they've got a great set of offerings, really happy to be connected and working with them. So glad to be here. So yeah, welcome everyone.
Thank you so much, Bryan, for your introduction. We have an interesting topic lined up for today's webinar, free Learn It Live session. So we'll be talking about how you can ace the PMP exam on your first attempt in 2024. So let's start with the first slide here. A few suggestions to get you started for the PMP exam preparation. Over to you, Bryan.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing just to kind of set some foundations here. This is a pretty demanding exam. I've taken many certification exams, and I would say this is probably one of the more challenging of certification exams that you're going to find in the market. But part of that's a reflection of the fact this is a very broad domain. There's a lot that goes into effectively and successfully delivering a project. So a few things that's always very valuable as we start our path to getting our project management professional certification is really getting familiar with all the different content, topics, information that's available so you can be in a better position to navigate and manage the certification. So of course, the place to start is the PMBOK, the Project Management Body of Knowledge. Good news is the PMBOK is something that is readily available. You can go to the PMI.org website, get access to it, and it provides a pretty comprehensive overview of all the things that go into successfully managing a project. But one thing that makes the PMP certification a little bit unique is that in addition to that core reference that the PMI provides, that much of their exam is based on, they also assume that you are pretty experienced, that you've been working in organizations for a number of years. In fact, there's a threshold. You have to have 36 months of working in a project-related setting. So they're expecting that you've had some real-world experience, and part of that means that you got some exposure to topics and ideas that might not necessarily be covered in the project management body of knowledge. So these are sort of other areas that you just by virtue of having worked in the real world for a while, you're going to just be familiar with and be able to kind of bring into your project management experience. So step one, just understand what's out there. Start with the PMBOK. That's a great place. And then look at the PMBOK and see what else it's pointing to. It might reference some other pieces of information. So for example, you heard me mention the term Agile. Well, Agile is referenced in things like the Agile Manifesto. So you might want to go to the Agile Manifesto webpage and just refresh yourself on the principles and the sort of the values of the Agile Manifesto. Also, there might be some other topics. Scrum is often frequently referenced. So go to the Scrum Guide. It's only 14 pages. Take a look at that. Get kind of comfortable with the roles and events that are covered in Scrum. So step one, do that survey, find out what information you're going to need to keep available so you can really focus on your exam.
Moving on to the next slide here.
Yeah, so this one is a really important one too. Find your motivation. And, each one of us are probably going to have different, motivations that will keep us focused on preparing for this exam. So as I mentioned, it is a very comprehensive exam. One thing that most of you are going to probably be not as familiar with is it's a long exam. For many of you who've probably been working out in the workforce for a while, I think we've had a number of people with, close to 5+ years of experience. It's probably been a while since you've sat down and had to take an exam. This is a 4-hour exam, so it's a pretty long period that you're going to need to be focusing. So find that motivation. What is it that's going to keep you kind of really intent on successfully completing the exam? And one way to think about this, it really is, and this picture sort of shows a nice image of sort of your progression. This is really going to enable your career. So if you've got your sights on, some more responsibility, you want some greater authority within your organization, you want exposure to more interesting pieces of work, those can be pretty compelling motivators. So use that as a way to kind of think about, why are you doing this? What's going to help you? What outcome are you trying to produce? And if you've ever used something like a vision board where you kind of look at pictures of magazines and see things that you really aspire to, and you put them up on your board to kind of keep yourself focused, that might be something you consider for this as well, because you are going to have to put some time and energy into preparing for this exam. So reminding yourself why you're doing that, maybe it's because you want to get a pool for the backyard, or take the kids to a fun vacation, or just learn more about parts of your organization. Whatever it is that motivates you, think about that, and then don't lose sight of it.
Totally agree to that. Motivation is really important while you're preparing for this exam or any exam. So, yeah. The next slide here, research.
Right. So we started off thinking about, okay, let's do that survey. Let's find out where all the information is that we're going to need to really leverage so we can prepare for the exam. So now we want to dig into that a little more deeply. So let's start thinking about what kind of questions we need to consider as we look at the material. A few things that I can offer to you, having done this for a long time. There are generally two questions that you will be asked as a project manager. How much will it cost and when will it be done? So thinking about that a little bit as a project manager, what kind of questions can you expect? What kind of areas are going to need to focus on? Some, parts of the project management domain are going to be in more, a tactile sort of construction oriented. You're building something, maybe you're building a big plant or facility or commercial structure. Those settings, we're going to be thinking a bit about, okay, what are the logistics? Where do I get the materials that I need? When will they become available? Where do they get stored? Other times you're working maybe in more of a digital domain. Hey, you're building a software system or product. So that's going to be a little bit more oriented around, hey, what kind of user interface do we need to consider? What kind of integrations are there with other systems and products? So thinking about those kind of general questions can really help you narrow in on the parts of the PMP certification that you'll get the most from. So just kind of give some thought to what kind of questions do you have when it comes to project management. And I saw a few people posting a few topics in the chat. Just thought I'd build on a couple things I saw. One thing that the Project Management Institute has been seeing is that if we were, 10 years in the past, that role of a project manager was pretty well defined, and organizations often had project manager roles, and they had a project management office that would manage projects and the roles. And oftentimes, if you were a project manager, you had a career progression you could follow. There were different levels. But now, increasing what the Project Management Institute is realizing or seeing in the industry is that many organizations are just pushing project management ideas and concepts throughout the whole enterprise. So you don't have to be a quote unquote project manager to still leverage and apply much of what you're going to be learning in your certification to your job. So you could be maybe a manager of customer support area, finance department, even marketing, sales, whatever it might be. And you're going to be able to draw upon a lot of these different types of skills and techniques that the project management domain offers. So thinking a little bit about that, because those questions, you don't have to be a project manager. You can still be responsible for a pretty large initiative and still leverage a lot of these ideas and concepts, even if you're not necessarily a project manager.
Moving on to the next slide here, disengage.
Yeah, and this is really, I think, important as well. And then this gets now into more of the practical techniques that you want to use as you start digging into and really learning about this project management space. So as I mentioned, the Project Management Institute's made some shifts from where they were in the past. So in the past, the Project Management Body of Knowledge was a rather intimidating book. It was about 1,000 pages, really thick. There's a lot to kind of absorb and go through. And they pivoted a little bit. Now it's sort of a lighter weight version that's supported by content in their knowledge repository. So the good news is it's not as intimidating to kind of go through the project management body of knowledge. However, now you also have to do a little more exploration and do some additional learning in some of their PMI content sites. So to help you with this, there's a lot to cover. So you really want to kind of think about, okay, let's have a long plan. Let's think that we're going to manage this like a project. Our outcome is a successful PMP certification completion. We have passed the exam. So where do we start? Well, we saw a few of the first steps. Let's gather our information. Let's get some things to motivate us. Let's ask a few questions that we can work on answering. And now let's think about how we want to break our time up. Now, all of us are busy, particularly if you are currently working and maybe you've got a family. So you might want to think about, okay, when are opportunities I'll have within the course of a week, in the course of a day, to do some studying. And let's build that out in a schedule. Let's focus our sessions. Some of you might have heard a concept called the Pomodoro technique. It's a term that refers to breaking work out in 20-minute segments. For a lot of people, 20 minutes is about the most they can really stay really focused on a topic. So consider just using, 20-minute periods that are sort of uninterrupted, that allow you to really focus on one of your study topics, and use that as a way to kind of really, look at and understand an idea or concept. And then come back to that periodically, test yourself, ask a few questions, and some good techniques are maybe creating a flashcard, of course, taking some notes about what you've learned, and then coming back to those. So all that is going to help you when it comes to the time to take the exam, because one thing that exam requires is that it is a closed book exam. You are not allowed to bring any other material in. You can't go to other websites. You can't reference the PMBOK. It has to be everything that you've memorized. So get into that habit as early as you can.
Moving on to the next slide here, discipline.
Discipline, discipline. Well, this is something that's important not just for a successful pass at PMP, but probably generally a good thing in life. Discipline. Make sure you are holding yourself accountable to the plan that you've developed. If you've got, a study schedule, make sure that you're adhering to it and you're giving it the attention, the priority that it needs. Okay, let's come back to that motivation. Why are you doing this? Well, see some opportunities maybe to, get some additional responsibilities and maybe get some more money for your family or yourself, whatever the motivation is, and then hold yourself accountable to the plan that you developed to successfully complete this activity. One challenge I often see with students who are interested in getting certification is, they'll have this idea, yeah, I really want to get my PMP certification. And they can understand, why it's going to help them. But what they struggle with is actually giving themselves a schedule and then holding themselves accountable to it. I've got one friend of mine, and I think for the last 10 years, he's told me, I'm really going to get my PMP. This is the year. But he hasn't really applied himself in a disciplined way to get that. So, hold yourself accountable, make sure you've got this goal, and then stick to it. That's so important. And often I find it helps, I work better with, most project managers work better this way, with sort of the end in mind. So give yourself a date. Say, hey, I want to get the PMP, by whatever, August or November or whatever date you're comfortable with. Use that as your focal point and then hold yourself, like I said, accountable, maintain that discipline to complete the exam on that date.
Moving on to the next slide here, the 7 effective PMP exam strategies.
Yeah. So, the good news is there are lots of great books and material and websites that are available to help you prep for the exam. And of course, I think one of the best ones is what Simplilearn offers. This is a space that I think really, Rasha, this is kind of what started Simplilearn to the point that it's at now, where it's got, hundreds and hundreds of great course offerings on such a range of topics. But really, it was the PMP that kind of got this ball rolling here. So Simplilearn has had more than 10 years of working, thinking about how to get students and exam people who take the exam ready to successfully pass the exam. So a few things you want to give some thought to. One, of course, you're going to use a PMBOK as your primary guide. Okay, good news is that's available freely from the PMI.org, so you can access it, you can read it. I would encourage you to become a PMI member. There's a couple reasons for that. One is it gives you access to a lot more information, content, including a lot of the support information they make available to take the exam. And the other is to maybe give some thought to the fact that you're at some point going to have to pay for the exam itself. And if you get the PMI certification, PMI membership, it gives you a discount about the same amount on the exam itself. So it's worth making that investment. Second thing is there's some good material out there. You see Rita Mulcahy's book on how to prep for the PMP. That's an excellent reference. So look for reference material. And then if you, and I would really encourage you to do this, and I think we might be going into this a little bit more in a moment, really look at taking a PMP certification course from someone like Simplilearn, where you will have not just great curated content that's going to explain everything that's in this very dense tome of knowledge that you're going to be referencing. But in addition, it provides you all sorts of great practice exams. And you're going to find practice exams are a really important way to kind of get comfortable with taking the final exam. It's got case studies that you can reference to see how you can apply these techniques into real world settings. And then, of course, you've got access to instructors and people that have a lot of experience with this, people like myself, who can help you prep and get ready for the exam. So I would really encourage you to give some thought to taking one of those courses as well.
Moving on to the next slide here.
Yeah, and this is, I think, just building on what I was saying, attending the classroom workshop. So one of the things you need to be aware of too is not just anyone can take the PMP certification exam. The PMI has some eligibility requirements. So one of them is that you have to take at least some amount, 35 hours of PMP project management training. So it's often a really good strategy to get that all in one place and use something like the Simplilearn PMP course as a place to kind of get that training and demonstrate that you have prepared for the exam. The other thing is you need to have experience, real world experience. So you have to not just take the training, 35 hours, but you also have to bring 36 hours plus a degree from an accredited university in order just to take the exam and then get your PMP certification. So really encourage you to take an exam prep workshop. They are so valuable. Not only are they going to teach you about the material, the content, but they're also going to really focus on preparing you for this exam. Because like I said, this exam is probably going to be, something you haven't had a chance to experience for a few years. Sitting down for 4 hours, taking an exam. It's 200 questions. It's kind of, think of it like, preparing for a 10K run. You can't just run out the door and run 10K. Well, let's see, maybe in pretty good shape already, but you want to kind of work your way up to that, prepare for it, and the exam prep workshops are a really good way to do that.
Agree to that. We have been getting a lot of questions here in the Q&A box by folks here. We'll be answering those in some time, folks. Please keep your questions coming in. Moving on to the next slide here.
Yeah, and I'm looking at you. Thank you for highlighting that. Yeah, great questions. I love the one that is PGMP better than PMP? What's the difference? I'll spend just a moment on that. I think it's a great question. So yeah, PGMP is the program management certification, and the PMP is the project management professional. So the PMP is really focused on projects, managing projects. Programs are when you're managing multiple projects that are all focused on providing some broader solution. So you can think of program management exam and certification, sort of one that you'll need to get your PMP first to progress onto your program management certification if that's a path you want to get to. I will share with you, there's not that many people that have the program management professional. PMP is a pretty demanding exam. The program management one is even a little bit more demanding. So a lot goes into that. So think of this as sort of a progression. And the other thing to bring to your attention, which I think is pretty exciting, is the PMI has done a really nice job of also recognizing, hey, this is a pretty big investment we're asking people to make. So it's a demanding exam. They're going to have to prep a lot, read all this information. So they've complemented it with what they call micro certifications. And that's another good place to spend some time because those are much more accessible. Typically, they can be completed in 2 to 4 hours. You still get a little certification, a micro certification from the PMI. And they also are a little bit more, at times a bit more contemporary because they can build that content a little more quickly. So really encourage you to spend a little time exploring what other options the PMI have. So a few things, yes, online PMP exam simulators. So this is one of the strengths I think that Simplilearn brings to the table. They have been very, very aware for a long time that the best way to pass the PMP certification is to let people practice in what is very similar to what the PMP exam is going to look like. So if you, and we'll take a quick look at this in a moment or two, at the learning management system that Simplilearn provides, there are 4 practice exams that you can take. They are timed. They use very, very similar questions to what you'll find at the PMP exam. In fact, many of them have, at some point, I've had a chance to author a large number of them. And of course, as I mentioned, I work for PMI as well. So I'm pretty familiar with the types of questions that are going to be asked with very similar structure. So you can kind of get really, get some good exposure to what the exam is going to look like and also the timing. And then the other part of that is once you've done a practice exam, you can get your results and kind of see how you did, but it'll also point you to sections of the exam where you could maybe benefit from spending a little bit more time. Maybe you didn't do as well as you expected. So that kind of helps you narrow in on where you want to study. Flashcards are great as well. I know one of my daughters is going into grade 7 here in the US, and she's really fallen in love with flashcards. She's got a little flashcard app that she uses to help her with her different courses, and anyone can get a lot of benefit from that regardless of your age. And then finding study groups, discussion forums, that's great. There's projectmanagement.com, which is sort of the PMI's, I guess, forums area. Lots of great content and lots of good conversations here. But again, if you take a course with someone like Simplilearn, you're going to come in with a group of other learners. And I find that's often a really powerful way in which learners can kind of share with one another, maybe create some study groups, practice together. So I really encourage you to give some thought to how you can organize with others that are trying to accomplish the same thing.
Moving on to the next slide here, summing up, what to expect from the questions asked.
Yeah, that's you're absolutely right, Rasha. This is sort of what most people immediately sort of get to. So what are we talking about here? So I shared a couple things. First off, it's a 200 multiple choice question exam that's going to be conducted over 4 hours. You don't need to use the 4 hours. Much of that time is the exam is all in English. And there are some people who are taking the exam where English might not be their first or native language. So they want to make sure there's enough time for people to adequately read all the questions and their answers. So you probably will find you won't need the full 4 hours, but it's available if you do need it. They're all multiple choice questions, okay? So you're going to have one question, you're going to have 4 answers. Your job is to pick the answer that is best for that question. I will share with you, sometimes the answers are a little tricky. You're going to look at the answer and say, gosh, 1 or 2, maybe even 3 of these could be pretty solid answers. So you're going to have to, read them carefully, think about which one's the best. One suggestion I will extend is that there's a couple things I would encourage you to do. First off, read the question entirely. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen prey to this myself a few times where you kind of skip through it because you're eager to get all your questions answered within the time. And you might miss something important in the question. So take the time to read the question thoroughly, every word of that question. Then read each of the answers thoroughly, end to end. Sometimes people will skip a couple word or two at the end of one of the answers, and it can completely change what that answer means. So take the time to read each of the answers thoroughly, end to end. You'll have plenty of time in the exam. You're really not going to feel too rushed. Like I said, there's lots of buffer built into the exam for you to read all the questions end to end. And then once you've read the 4 answers, first thing you want to do is just eliminate 1 or 2 of the questions that you just feel are just wrong, or don't answer the question adequately, and then narrow it down, ideally to 1 correct question. But if at least you've got 2, you get a 50-50 chance. So use that strategy to kind of narrow down what the correct answer is. A few things also bring your attention. There will be some questions that are going to require formulas. Okay, so you're going to get a little bit familiar with some of the different formulas for forecasting budgets and schedules, etc. So you'll want to spend a little time memorizing those. Good practices when you come into the exam is just jot those down on a piece of paper. Remember, you can't bring anything into the exam, so you're going to have to keep it all up here. So when you sit down, first thing you might want to do is just jot down some of the formulas. These aren't super complicated formulas, but it's also helpful to be able to quickly reference them when you need them. Beyond that, you might need to look at a graph or a chart sometimes and interpret it. Okay, so you can look at a picture and kind of see if a trend line is, showing that you're going to complete your project on time. If not, what is it trying to show you? So take, just be comfortable looking at, some of the graphs and using that to kind of interpret answers from the question. And in fact, sometimes they'll give you a graph and they'll have 2 or 3 questions that you'll need to answer referencing that graph. So they can be pretty important relative to your overall score on the exam. Okay.
Thank you so much, Brian, for taking us through the Learn It Live topic, how you can ace your exam, PMP exam in your first attempt 24. So you're here because you're interested in PMP and in becoming a project management expert. So what exactly is stopping you from gaining those project management expertise? So I'm just launching a quick poll here to understand what exactly are the challenges you're facing when it comes to pursuing a career in project management here. I've just launched a quick poll. This is a multiple choice poll, so you can select multiple options because there can be multiple challenges you might be facing. I'll just read out these options for you here on the chat, on the poll here. The first one here is I can't find a program with a fully comprehensive curriculum. Second one here is I wouldn't get the practical exposure I need to become job ready. And third one, I find it difficult to learn from pre-recorded videos. And the fourth one, my work schedule won't allow me enough time for learning. So I see that a lot of you have already started voting uh, for the poll here. But obviously, if these basically challenges don't cover your concern, the Q&A box is open. Please go and put down your query there. I see a lot of you putting down your questions in the chat box here. I'm so sorry, folks. We might be missing your queries because, as you can see, the chat volume here is pretty high because we have some 400 plus folks who have joined us. So just to keep up with your questions here, please put down your questions, your amazing questions, in the Q&A box. The Q&A box is also completely blowing up and we'll be answering your queries here. I think Brian has basically managed to answer a few of them, but we'll be taking your questions as well, whenever the speaker gets time. So please don't worry. We have a Q&A, session planned towards the end of the session, which will be in just few minutes. So just have a little patience, and this is a really good time to go and put down your questions in the Q&A box. So please do that. Awesome. We have a very active audience here. The chat box is completely blowing up. Please keep the conversation going on. Please keep the conversation going on, and let me just give 5 seconds more for the poll here because I see most of you have responded for the poll here. So what's stopping you from gaining project management expertise here? So last 5 seconds, folks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let me quickly end the poll and also share the results with you folks and Brian here. Let's see what have you voted for. I see 65% of you have voted for my work schedule won't allow me enough time for learning. 26% of you have voted for I wouldn't get the practical exposure I need to become job ready. And 17% of you have voted for I can't find a program with a fully comprehensive curriculum. And 13% of you have voted for I find it difficult to learn from pre-recorded videos. So thank you for sharing that with us and also your amazing queries in the Q&A box. I'm just quickly introducing the PMP certification training course, which Brian has already mentioned about in the previous segment here. So we have this in partnership with the Project Management Institute, which is authorized training partner here with Simplilearn. So the format here is on an online bootcamp where you get digital material and also live virtual classroom training here. Also, you get access to a comprehensive curriculum with an industry-aligned learning path, which we'll be sharing more about in the learning management system, which Brian will be sharing in detail. You get 35 contact hours per PDUs, a live online classroom training by top instructors and practitioners. So not only you can interact with the instructor, but with your fellow students as well. As it's a global program, you will also be seeing a diverse set of students joining the program as well. Also, we have 90 days of flexible access to online classes here. Yeah. Also, how exactly this program builds your PMP skills step by step. Brian, can you take us through these steps?
Yes, absolutely. And I've been monitoring some of the Q&A questions, great questions people are asking. So I'm doing my best to answer a few of those as we're having the session here. And there's some great questions in the comments too. I know we've got a lot of people here, a lot of interest in this topic. So I'll do my best to kind of respond as Rasha is chatting. So yeah, a couple things about the course curriculum. So the first off, this is really kind of formed around a foundational approach to getting and learning about project management, getting that PMP certification. So a couple things that the PMI has sort of structured their content, their project management content in, and this has been a shift. This is part of, in fact, an area that I worked a lot with them on in the past. This felt, I mean, a little more abstract. It was all about, we need to manage risks and issues. We need to develop a schedule and budget and manage stakeholders. And those are still very important. They are still an important part of the project management structure. But now the language, I think, is just much more accessible. So it starts on, first off, creating a high-performing team. Okay, all projects are delivered by people. We want to ensure that we've got a team of people or teams of people, depending on the size of the project, that are motivated, have the necessary skills, feel empowered to deliver the project outcomes. So that's step one. Let's get that high-performing team. Once we've got that in place, that's such an important enabler to actually starting the project. So how do we start the project? Well, we got the team, we got the right skills, we understand what it is we're trying to do. Now we can start building out some of the things that most of us are familiar with, things like a schedule and maybe a charter that defines the scope of the work that we're doing. And we start looking at how we're going to manage the work. So that's really starting the project, which includes, developing a comprehensive project management plan. Once we have that in place, then the team can start doing the work. Okay, now these aren't necessarily sequential. So what do I mean by that? It means that maybe we start bringing on some of the high-performing team members, we get them kind of situated and kind of oriented around the work that they need to perform. Then we start, planning, doing some work, and then we actually start doing work at the same time. We're still maybe onboarding new people. We're giving some thought to sort of the later stages of the project, but we can start getting busy on getting the work completed as soon as we can. Once we've got things kind of moving in the right direction, think of this as a great big, a ship that's left the harbor and going into the open waters. Now we need to keep the project, keep the team on track. So what are we going to look for? We're going to look for indicators that tell us that we're tracking to the schedule that we developed or the budget that we have allocated or the scope that was agreed to with the project. So we're going to use it, kind of make sure that our ship is on track as it gets to its destination. And then finally, we want to keep the business in mind. Okay, so sometimes in project management, we can put a little too much energy in saying, yep, we're really, adhering to the schedule that we created early in the project life cycle, and our budget's looking really good. But we're losing sight of the real reason we're doing the work, which is the business. What value are we producing? And is this what the business needs right now? Because as we're all aware, hey, the market changes quickly, right? We've just in the course of the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen huge changes that have occurred from, crazy pandemic lockdowns to suddenly AI being in, every sentence people are talking about in meetings. So because of the world shifts very, very quickly, we don't want to lose sight of what the business really needs. So we want to make those course adjustments as we're delivering our project. So those are the sort of the 5 layers that you're going to be going through in the course curriculum, all based on the Project Management Institute structures.
Thank you so much for taking us through the steps here of the program, how exactly it builds the PMP skill step by step. Also, let us quickly take you through the learning environment of the PMP certification training course. We actually are getting a lot of questions, about the same. I think we will be answering a lot of your questions from the Q&A box, about the course, about PMP exam in general through this learning environment of the program. So I'm just quickly stopping sharing my screen here. Bryan, you can go ahead and share your screen. I'll just stop sharing.
All right, excellent, thanks.
Yes, I've stopped sharing my screen. Bryan, you can go ahead and share it. And
Okay.
we do have a lot of questions here in the Q&A box, which is basically about the program and also about the basically exam in general. So maybe we can sum it up and answer a lot of them. I think we have one question that do we only get access to do we only get access to the live classes or there is a recorded option also available? So I think you will be able to answer such similar questions, like that during the learning environment of the session.
Yeah, excellent. So, what you're looking at right now is a Simplilearn Learning Management System, or LMS. So one of the things I like about it is they have spent a great deal of time thinking about the user interface. So it's lightweight, it's pretty easy to find the information you need and kind of get to where you need to get to quickly. It's very mobile friendly. So if you're looking at this on a laptop, if you're perhaps using even your cell phone, those are options available to you, which I think I saw one of the questions, people were answering was, hey, I have a hard time finding the time to do this learning. And you're not alone. You're not alone. I did a lot of the same learning while I had 5 kids and was working and managing large complex projects. So I can absolutely relate. You've got to find something that's flexible, that you can do your learning in those moments, those rare moments at times where you have some availability. This is actually a sort of a broader curriculum here, but I'm gonna focus on this one here. This is the PMP. Because I'm a faculty member, I often don't get the latest and greatest until it's necessary. So some of this you might see is 2021, but this has been refreshed to the current year. But basically, you get a chance to kind of start into things like your self-learning. So you'll see that right off the bat, you've got some options here. You can see the videos starting to emerge. All the content material provided by Simplilearn has very professional. They've got a great team that kind of builds out their content, and then another team that really makes sure it's packaged together in a compelling way that's very learner friendly. So you can start and stop any of the training at any point that you want. You can come back to it. It will remember where you left off. On the right-hand side, you can see that there is sort of a table of contents that you can use to kind of progress through each of the topics. You can see how much time each of the topics has. You can see the sections that we just spent a little time looking at in the previous slides. So you can jump to any one of these and kind of dig into those, and they're further broken down into more detail. So this is really helpful for you to come back to later when there might be a topic or two that maybe you just need to refresh. I saw a very frequent question people ask is, what about all these formulas? Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do math again. This feels really overwhelming. Good news, really simple math. It's mostly addition, subtraction. I don't think you're going to find it too overwhelming. But getting comfortable with what the formulas are, you'll have a place to come back to easily and just sort of spend a little additional time if that's an area that you're need to spend more time on. Now, you heard Rasha ask, hey, this is the self-paced learning. This is great when, maybe you put the babies to bed and now you've got an hour before you go to sleep. You can kind of do a little self-paced learning here, but you might also get a lot from live classes. So there will be a schedule of live classes. Sorry, my access is expired. Usually I'm the one teaching these things, so I have a little different view. But what you would see is you'd see when live classes be available. You can jump into any one of these. You can listen to an instructor. You can ask some of the questions that I see are popping into the chat. So it's a great way for you to kind of hear a little bit more directly from someone who might even offer some real world experiences you get some benefit from, or you just want to ask a question to. And then finally, we have the assessments. And this is, to some degree, I think the most important part. You're going to get an opportunity to take some of these practice exams. These are modeled exactly on what you will be taking from the PMI. And they're authored by people that have worked with PMI, like myself, who have a lot of experience in the space. There's a deep repository of questions in the Simplilearn question banks. They've been doing this for a very long time. They're really good practice tests, and just take the exam. Now, unfortunately, I think mine right now is expired, but when you take it, you would get an online version of the PMP, exactly what you'll get when you take the PMP certification. It will have a timer, so you get a sense of how much time you have, how long you're taking. I heard a few people ask some questions. Hey, can I skip a question? Yes, you can. If you come across a question and say, gosh, I don't really know the answer to this, or I'll want to come back to it later, you can flag it, keep on going, and then the PMI exam will let you know which questions either you skipped or maybe you didn't answer. It'll say, hey, you didn't answer question 32. Would you like to answer this before you submit your exam? So take the practice exam, see how you do. Hey, you want to, of course, get to the point you're successfully passing this comfortably. So go through all the practices. Each one is really important. And remember, they're long. Okay, they could be up to 4 hours. So if you do 4 exams, or they're 4 hours each, that's 16 hours right there, assuming you complete them all. So final thing before we move on, hand things back to Rasha. It's also important to be part of the community. So one of the things that Simplilearn has given a little thought to is creating a community for its learners. And you can go to that pretty easily here. You've got, oh, look at that. That's the front page there. We go to community at Simplilearn. Oops, did I type that right? Gosh, sorry, my
It'll
typing is
be
horrendous.
community.simplylearn.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, simplylearn.com. That will take you to. Oh, did I get it wrong, Rasha?
I think the LMS access might be a problem. Sometimes it happens like so.
It does. Okay. Yeah. You know what? And it's probably because as an instructor, I don't always have all the wiring here. Sorry, folks.
So
I'm so
we
excited
have
to
a
do it live
Simplilearn
now.
community, which basically you can access once you've taken up the program through LMS. It is not visible right now, but in that community, you get to basically ask your questions there, after the session is done. And instructors, whenever they find the time, they come and basically help you out with your queries there as well.
Right. Exactly. Yep. So I spent a lot of time on that myself, looking at questions people are posting and just being available if some of the learners need some help. And you learn from each other too. So it's a great opportunity to kind of create some study groups, things like that. So, all right. Well, I know we're getting a little pressed for time here. So hopefully I didn't spend too much time on this one topic, but let me turn it back over to you, Rasha.
Sure. Let me just share back my screen. So folks, we just went through the learning environment of the PMP certification course here. I think a few of you have also asked, what are the companies that will be hiring for the, Project PM role here. So the companies here, you see the top companies hiring here are Oracle, Duke, Infosys, Amazon, Cognizant, Tata, Citi, JP Morgan Chase, Airbnb, and EY, and many more, which we have not put here, like hundreds more. And the PMP certification course also have advisors, world-class advisors. Tim Jerome here is a project management expert and evangelist here. And Ravi Kumar Krishnan, one of the top project management voices on LinkedIn. He has expertise here. He is a PMI authorized trainer with over 21 years of experience. Sachin Goswami here, who is a PMI authorized trainer as well. He has a certified PMP and also with 22 years of experience in global project management and skills, that are dynamic consulting, and also is associate director at Simplilearn. So these course advisors make sure that Simplilearn is delivering to as per standards here and, giving you a good experience here when you're taking up the PMP certification course. Also, a lot of you have asked if I'm eligible to take up this program or not. So let me just quickly take you through the eligibility and the prerequisites of the program here. So you need to have a secondary degree, high school diploma, associate's degree, or a global equivalent. 7,500 hours experience leading and directing projects. That means you need to have experience here, which is really great because we saw a lot of you folks who have joined us have great amount of experience, and also 35 hours of project management education here. Or you need to have a 4-year degree with 4,500 hours leading and directing projects here, and 35 hours of project management education here. So I hope that answers your questions in terms of eligibility and prerequisites, for taking up this program here. So we would love to know, are you interested in enrolling into the PMP certification course here? I'm just quickly launching a poll to understand your interest. You can respond by saying yes here. Basically, once you share your response as yes, the learning consultants will be reaching out to you and taking you through a much more detailed walkthrough of the program and answer any queries you might have. I also will be sharing with you an email ID, which you can use to share any queries you have about the program even after the webinar as well. I'll be sharing that in the upcoming slides where I'll be quickly taking you through the enrollment steps of the program. Meanwhile, please, I'll just give 10-15 seconds for the poll here before we move on to the enrollment steps. And Bryan, if you have some time, we have plenty of questions in the Q&A box and folks have been waiting for a response there. So maybe if you have some time, we can answer these questions as well while we go through the enrollment steps of the program.
Yeah, will do. I'm answering some of them right now.
Thank you. So folks, the poll is live for are you interested in enrolling to the PMP certification course here? Let me do one thing. I'll just share my screen while you are actually responding and show you how to enroll as well. So what exactly happens? So let me just quickly open the site here. I'll share the link towards the program for you just give me like a few minutes. So here, when you go to the course page here, the PMP certification training course, you basically can see all the details here of the program, which we have already shared. And for basically getting in touch, you will have to basically put down your full details here, where you will have to put your full name, your email ID, and also your phone number here. And by providing your contact details, you will be basically able to enroll into the program. And before enrolling, the Simplilearn learning consultant will be reaching out to you as well. So you can basically talk to our advisor and also view other cohorts as well of the program which are upcoming. So the upcoming cohorts as well, I'll be sharing with you. We have weekday and weekend classes both, which you can basically choose from according to the schedule you have. If you're a working professional, if you have or other projects you're working on, or other things you're also taking up and studying as well. So based on the time you have, so we'll be sharing that as well. So let me just quickly go back to the screen here, and let's see. Like I think most of you have responded for the poll here. But last 10 seconds, folks, for the poll. Are you interested in enrolling into the PMP certification training course here? You can quickly respond as yes by responding to the poll, which is live right now. Most of you have responded for the poll here, but we will give 15 seconds more for the poll here because I see a lot of you are still basically responding to the poll here. So 15 seconds more, and a lot of you folks who have joined us live on our YouTube channel, you can click on the description of this YouTube live, and on the top you will see a description where on the top you will see the link towards enrollment, which I've just shown you. So I've just shared the link towards the program enrollment here as well. Let me just quickly do that for folks because I know a lot of you have joined from different countries. So just to check out the basically details of the program which I've just shown you, you can just quickly go and check out the details. I'm sharing the link of the program here, which I've just shown you. Awesome. Last 5 seconds, folks, for the poll here. Are you interested in enrolling into the PMP certification training course? You can respond as yes by sharing your response towards enrollment, and I'll be taking you through the enrollment steps of the program quickly. Meanwhile, Bryan is actively answering your queries in the Q&A box. Please go have a look if your question has been answered. Please do that, and this is a really good time to go and put down any questions you might have about the program or PMP exam in general. So please do that. So last 5 seconds, folks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see a lot of you are still responding, so I think I'll give 10 seconds more. So folks, please quickly go and vote for the poll which has launched right now to share your interest towards enrollment into the program. A lot of you folks are writing yes on the chat. Please make sure you have voted on the poll as well. This is how the learning consultants from Simplilearn will be able to reach out to you and take you through a much more detailed walkthrough of the program before enrolling. Awesome. I see a lot of folks are responding. They have already joined the program. So thank you so much. Fellow analysts have also joined the basically webinar as well. Please do let us know if you have any questions career related or program related, post program as well. So, yeah. Awesome. I think I'll be ending the poll now. Thank you so much, folks, for sharing your responses for enrollment. We saw a lot of you responding yes towards enrollment. So let me just quickly take you through the enrollment steps here. So 3 simple, easy steps when the learning consultants from Simplilearn will be reaching out to you. They'll be taking you through these 3 simple, easy steps. So first step here is you will have to submit an application at askus@simplilearn.net. And based on that, your application will be going for review. That is the second step. And we will evaluate your application based on the eligibility and the prerequisites we have shared for the program with you. And also based on that, we'll be getting admissions offer from Simplilearn, and we'll be sending you that admissions offer over mail. And the program fee for US candidates here is $1,099 US dollars, and for Indian candidates it is 10,999 INR rupees. For folks who have joined us from different countries, which I see a lot of you from introductions here, I'm sharing the link towards the program. You can check it out for your own region as well. And also, few of you have asked like, when is the next immediate cohort you can join? So, and what kind of classes do we have? Do we have weekend or weekdays? So we have both options you can choose from. So the weekend classes, which are the immediate one, are starting on 11th March, and the weekend classes are starting on 9th March. And we have limited seats per cohort in order to make sure they're getting all the attention that is required when you're taking up the program. So we have very limited seats per cohort. So if you're planning to take the next immediate cohort, you can choose this one to basically enroll for. And if you have any more questions, you basically can reach out to us at askus@simplilearn.net. I'm just sharing that email ID here. Even after this webinar, if you have any queries, you can basically drop us an email there and basically let us know if you have any queries about the program as well. Moving on to the Q&A part of the session, our time is over, but if we can take maybe few minutes to sum it up, because we have gotten a lot of repetitive questions here, Bryan, and I think you have managed to answer a lot of them as well. So maybe you can sum it up and answer these questions, in the next 2 to 3 minutes, how much of a time, you might have.
Sure, of course. Yeah, no, great questions that people are asking, and I've been doing my best to answer them. So if you did post something there, you might want to just click on the ones that are answered and see if your question is one of them. A few people are asking questions like, hey, I have a CAP-M certification, and I want to use that and progress in PMP. Is that possible? And the short answer to that, absolutely. You're going to use the same foundation of information. So you already have a strong starting point. Generally, people with a CAP-M, which is the associate project management certification, or people just don't have a lot of the working experience necessary to get the PMP. So this is a good place to kind of navigate a little more experience. You can progress the PMP. So really encourage that. Someone else asked a good question. What's the difference between PMP and Prince 2? So Prince 2 is kind of like the project management professional certification. It's a different organization that offers it. It's got a very similar structure. A lot of these ideas are, pretty common across both the PMP and the Prince 2 certification. But Prince 2 is used a lot more in Europe. So it's got a little more presence there, whereas the PMP is a bit more of a globally recognized certification. So it really depends. If you're in Europe and you're working with maybe European clients, you might find Prince 2 is possibly a better fit for you. Let me see. Can you take a pen, paper, calculator in? You can take a pen, you can take paper, but you cannot bring a calculator into the exam. Although these days, I don't know, maybe with your phone and things like that, or a watch, you might have some options. But again, don't be overly concerned about the formulas. They are not very, very demanding. They are mostly addition, subtraction, maybe a little bit of division. So you're not doing any, sophisticated calculus on the exam. And the questions they ask, they know that, people are just doing this, longhand, so they're not going to challenge you too much with complex formula questions. Let's see. Oh, so this is a question. I think total questions in the exam will be 180 or 200. Can you confirm? So yeah, let me just spend a minute on that. So there are 200 questions that are going to be asked in the exam. And however, this is a little interesting. Not all 200 questions are going to be scored against your final mark. So they use some of the questions as sort of tests. They're trying to see how people answer them and use those in future exams. Now, they don't tell you which ones, but some of them aren't going to be counted against your exam. So maybe if you get one wrong, hopefully that's not one that's going to count against you. And many, many people ask the question, so what's the passing score? Tell me how many questions do I have to get right? The PMI does not tell us exactly what that threshold is. Okay? A little bit of a mystery there. A good guide, however, is try and get 80%. 80% or above is probably going to get you to the place that you are going to successfully pass. Other than that, they just tell you in each one of the sections if you are proficient. Okay, either above proficiency or below proficiency. Okay, so you want to get proficient or above. That's really all you're going to get. It won't tell you got 50% or 60% or 70%. It's just going to tell you if you're proficient or not. Okay, were there any that you saw, Rasha, that we thought we could spend a moment or two on?
I think you have basically answered a lot of these questions here. I think which were repetitive as well. I think you have also successfully answered those questions. Please, folks, do check out the Q&A box, the answered questions. A lot of the questions have already answered. Thank you so much, Bryan. We have already exceeded the time of the webinar. So thank you so much for taking up these questions and also taking us through these interesting topic for today. If you have any questions, folks, you can always reach out to us at askus@simply.net. I've already shared the email ID twice on the chat here. We'll be ending the session now because we are a little out of time. I'm so sorry, folks. So thank you so much, Bryan. Once again, it's always a pleasure hosting you.
Yeah, great session. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. I've shared a link towards the webinars here. You can register for. You can check it out here on the chat box. I'm just sharing it once again. And thank you for being an amazing audience, folks. From the interest we saw towards enrollment into the PMP certification training course, I think we'll be seeing a lot of you in the upcoming cohorts. So thank you so much, folks. If you have any questions, please do reach out to us at askus@simplilearn.net. Now, for the folks who basically want the webinar certificate for attending this webinar, you'll be getting a pop-up by Zoom once I end this basically session by Zoom here. And it will be post-webinar survey, which will ask you for your full name, which you would want to see on the certificate. So we will need that data in order to basically give you that personalized certificate for attending the webinar. So, and also there will be a feedback section as well. If you have any feedback for us, please do let us know. We always want to basically make these webinars better and basically give you that value adding session you're looking for whenever you come up to these webinars. So please do that. That will be really helpful for us. And thank you so much. Please do let us know how was the session for you. I'll be ending the session now. Thank you, folks.